Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sonic Frontiers. The Cocos are excited. Are you?
I mean, that movie was good, but it wasn't like one of my favorites.
Oh, Coco for Pixar?
Yeah.
That movie destroyed me.
It certainly wasn't worth having to watch 30 minutes of Olaf from Frozen being a dumbass to get started. If somebody had told me that I could actually show up 45 minutes late to the movie, I would have done it.
Oh, is that for a Star Shower?
Yep.
The blood moon rose once again.
Yeah.
It's funny because Legend of Zelda does have blood moons, but it also has falling stars that drop specific item materials.
God, the frickin' stars in Zelda. I mean, they're cool, but they're the fucking worst because whenever you see one, you immediately lose track of every shark.
You have to run halfway across. You have to run halfway across the countryside and down several cliffs to grab it, and then it's hard to get back to where you were and what you were doing.
Yeah, and you lose your mental train of thought.
It's fun going after them when they just happen to happen during the wild, but when you're grinding them, what you're always doing is going to a specific tower at a specific time of night to farm a specific star drop that happens maybe at a certain time during the night. And it's like, yeah, okay, this is boring now.
It's better than trying to do the dragon pieces. That's
the dragon pieces are a little bit more reliable because like the dragon will always appear at a specific place at a specific time. So you can farm the dragon at that location every single night. So you go back to Hateno, you nap for a few hours, and then you warp back to your little amulet space, and you just shoot them in the eye again.
Yeah, it's just a pain in the ass to actually get the goddamn things, especially when you need a lot of them, because I wanted to get 5-star equipment, and then I gave up.
It's a pain in the ass until you discover just how accurate Rivali's bow is. It is the only legendary weapon worth using, and it is perfect for hunting the dragons.
Okay, but counterpoint, fuck him. And
well, yeah, Rivali's an asshole, but his bow is
That's all you
his bow is pretty cool.
I saved him last, and I didn't know that like his actual thing.
His ability is the best in the game.
Yeah, but like at that point, I didn't use it out of spite, pretty much, because again, fuck him.
Rivali's Gale kind of spoils the fun of navigation, to be honest. But you know, I saved him last too, but that's just because I don't have as much attachment to the Rito because they've only been in one game before. So I was less interested in seeing them, which was unfortunate because I actually like the Rito town.
I actually turned off all of the abilities when I got them because I thought that their icons on the side of the screen were annoying.
Well, that's fair. It's also like you might want to save Daruk's protection every now and then, so turning it off is actually a valid strategy.
It wasn't, but it wasn't. I turned them on for the final fight, and then I realized how OP all of them were. And I'm like, oh,
well, I
mean,
mean,
have had these on the whole time.
Urbosa's Fury kind of wrecks everything.
Yeah, and then it's just like, oh, you don't actually die now.
It's even better. Cool. It's even better once you finish Champion's Ballad because the recharge times are cut in half. So like,
oh god, the worst thing about that DLC is that. You get the motorcycle, and you've already explored the entire goddamn game, and you don't get to do anything with it.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, it was definitely true for people who added the DLC after they'd already finished the game. But the only requirement for getting Champion's Ballad is to beat all 4 Divine Beasts, and you might, depending on your approach, you might do that really early on before exploring most of the world.
Shark.
Like, I finished the Divine Beasts pretty early in my playthrough. And I still had, like, most of the shrine content to go through. So, I got a lot of use out of that goddamn motorcycle. Also, the motorcycle lets you jump off cliffs, which horses do not let you do. So, you can...
For some reason. I don't know what the horse's deal is.
Quick time events.
Well, I mean, like, it's a teleporting goddamn motorcycle, so you can jump off the cliff and the bike just teleports away, and then you summon it when you're on the ground again. It leads to some really cool navigation moments that the horse and the other stuff in the game doesn't let you do. Like, you can jump off the motorcycle directly into a glide and get some really good distance out of that.
Anyway, worst enemy.
Yeah.
It's just quick time events.
You guys managed to talk over the entire moon thing with unrelated selfish shit. I was actually pretty impressed by that.
Wait, you only have to hit it once to kill it? Oh no.
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 Oh.
You
The
smack
problem
it
is
to
you-
stun it, and then you have to beat it down.
And if you don't get it down in one cycle, you have to do the entire quick time event over again.
Oh.
Like
This is the fucking Molduga from Breath of the Wild if everything good about the Molduga was sucked out of it. Damn it. I almost had it. Now I need to do the whole QuickTime event thing again.
No.
yeah,
God.
this guy sucks. I do not bother fighting this guy at all.
What do you
Nice
get
grab, though.
for killing the mini
gear.
bosses?
The same thing you get from any other mini boss. Like you might get a portal gear, you might get a heart or
No, I
defense
think
boost.
I think the mini bosses are.
I think
always
is it only
gears.
portal gears? Okay. Well, still, there are many other ways to get portal gears in this game. Fighting this dude is a waste of time.
Big buddy old pal.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to fight the guy just to get it out of your hair for exploring a certain section of the map, but other than that, yeah.
No, I can still explore the map and ignore him.
You just like
I am
don't touch
not
it?
giving him my
He
time of
starts
the day.
shooting.
Yeah.
He
just-
starts shooting missiles at you, though. It's annoying.
Yeah. I'm Sonic though. I can run fast.
Now, this
It's
is
just kind of funny that there's no effect for Sonic going through the sand, so it just kind of looks like he's clipping in there.
I was about to say that the not Molduga here is also like one of the times where the game's lack of animation polish really shows through because like they animate the sand when you're walking and running. You get footsteps and
you
stuff.
can even see like the indents from the explosions on the sand, which
Yeah,
is pretty cool.
It's nice looking sand, but they never added an animation for Sonic's feet skidding through the sand. So it's like the sand is so detailed in other areas that when it's not detailed, it really sticks out, you know. Anyway, this is like the one time that something you do while progressing the main plot actually changes the active map. Because the area underwater here is explorable and has stuff in it, but you can't really explore it until you drain the water. Because Sonic does drown. Underwater traversal actually works a lot like it does in the classic games here. It's just there's rarely any cause to be underwater. If you fall into this water, you are dead, by the way. Unless you can quick travel to like an Elder Coco or something, I suppose.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Sonic not being good at swimming has just always kind of been like a thing, but like they've never really done anything with it in any of the 3D games.
It's unfortunate because it can work really well in 3D. Sonic Roboblast 2 has some really good underwater sections. So like,
I think part of the problem is just that Sonic fans hate being underwater so much that nobody wants to like make it a big thing.
you know, Sonic fans hating underwater sections is kind of another Sonic shitty friends thing, where what they actually hate, what people actually want to talk about, is another element of the game entirely, which is the level design attached to those sections. Labyrinth Zone isn't bad because it was underwater. Labyrinth Zone is bad because it was bad underwater sections.
Do you actually have to aim that, or is that just a
Yeah.
cutscene? Oh, okay.
Yeah, you have to aim that, but it's a big freaking bullseye, and it's not like there's any like drag on the missile or anything. Just point it at the thing, and you're good.
To be fair, I missed it the first time because I thought he had to shoot the chain. So
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too, is to shoot the chain. But
Yeah. Yeah, I had the same thought actually.
nature's toilet bowl.
hooray, we changed the ecosystem.
No,
yeah,
Sildra, Sildra, come back.
And so, countless life forms of the desert, without their only source of water, died within weeks.
Nobody lives here. Too.
There are some water sources in the boss area, so I like
Oh
how
yeah, I'm sure that the sudden loss of tons and tons of water getting drained out of the ecosystem's fine.
I like how Sonic just asked the question you were asking about. Are we sure this was a good idea? And Knuckles is like, "Hey, you revealed the way forward. That's what's important."
Am I the bad guy?
And Knuckles and Sonic is just like, "Well, this is a desert. You can't feel it, but it kind of sucks here."
It's honestly kind of funny when you have, because Sonic and Knuckles are both like pretty arrogant, and not that Sonic's stupid, but I wouldn't say he's very smart. You know, so it's like when you have both of the like hot-headed, extremely like impulsive characters together, it's like weird when only one of them can act like impulsive at a time because of plot.
I wouldn't classify Sonic as extremely impulsive outside of like Lost World, which is the only place where that character trait really comes up. I'd classify him more as carefree. But when the situation is dire, he's actually pretty thoughtful about how he approaches it. As opposed to Knuckles, who's kind of a punch first, ask questions later kind of person.
Yeah, I'll say Knuckles is the impulsive one.
Knuckles tends to punch before he thinks, whereas Sonic is... I mean, he tends to be a bit blasé about things, but that just means that when he makes a mistake, it's because he wasn't taking a situation seriously enough. And to be fair, it's hard to take Eggman blowing through a conch shell seriously. It's a little...
that was your problem with the game.
It was a little weird, as a mental image. Like, I'm like, what? Conch shell, what? Anyway, this...
Oh, magic conch shell. Will I defeat Sonic today?
This is a Sonic Adventure 2 level. This is a Shadow level, actually. What is it called? Radical Highway?
Radical Highway.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Radical Highway. Oh, yeah, this is the not Golden Gate Bridge.
To be honest, I prefer the Sonic levels to the Shadow levels in Sonic Adventure 2, but still.
They're generally better. Like, I'd say out of Shadow's levels, there's Radical Highway, White Jungle. It's Green Forest. White Jungle, Sky Rail, and Final Chase. Of Shadow's 4 levels, Sky Chase is really the only one that's like... Sky Rail, god damn. Sky Rail's the only, like, really, really good one. And that's just because it's the only one that does anything interesting with the rail grinding in the game, period.
I mean, I like Radical Highway.
Radical Highway's good.
I would say Radical Highway and Skyrim are the best ones.
I mean, Radical Highway is
really
good, but it's not, like... excellent. It's
Radical
like,
Highway is
fine.
good, but it's kind of just a poor man's city escape when you think about it.
It's like, it's very...
Well, because Shadow's just a poor man's Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
Oh, man, you're right. That's why...
Like, it doesn't help that Shadow has so many fewer levels than Sonic does, because Eggman is technically the main character of that storyline.
I mean, Eggman kind of doesn't...
Eggman
It's
has
so weird.
Eggman has the same number of levels as Sonic does.
Uh,
Or maybe just slightly less. The point is, he has the most levels out of all the characters in that storyline.
oh god, there's 15 levels in each one.
Every gameplay style, every one of the 3 gameplay styles in Sonic Adventure 2 has the same number of levels as every other gameplay style, but the ratio of speed to treasure hunting to mech shooting levels in the 2 arcs is different, and the dark side story skews toward Eggman, the hero side story skews toward Sonic.
Yeah, but all the Eggman stages happen like at the very beginning, and then you go like 6 or 7 levels at the end without doing an Eggman stage.
But the point is, because there are the same number of mech stages as there are treasure hunting stages as there are Sonic stages, the different side stories have different ratios of them within that number. There's like 10 of each of the 3 styles, not counting Green Hill Zone.
There's 9 technically because Tails and Rouge both have a car.
Oh, yeah.
Level,
So,
yeah.
So technically, there's 9 mech levels and there's 9 treasure hunting levels, but same difference.
Yeah, pretty much.
The point is, if there are 6 speed levels in one story, there are going to be 4 speed levels in the other story. And that applies to the mech levels too. There are fewer Tails levels than there are Eggman levels.
Yeah, pretty much. But like a lot of Eggman's, like I was more talking in story significance. Like Eggman initiates the conflict by freeing Shadow, but like other than that, like
the main character and the hero aren't always the same thing in a story.
That is true, yeah.
I mean, it's weird to think about. It's more of a classical storytelling element that people don't really think about these days. But
yeah, no, it's true because like in Avengers: Infinity War, Thanos is the protagonist of that movie, but he's not the hero of the movie.
Well, I'm talking more like in the classical sense. Lord of the Rings, Frodo is the main character. Like, undisputably, he's the protagonist of the story. But in the classical sense, the hero is actually Sam. And that's how Tolkien himself would have described it, because that's the role that they fill. The hero and the protagonist are not necessarily the same thing within the characters of a story. They don't always fill the same roles. Sometimes they do. In modern storytelling, they usually do. But
well, at that point, wouldn't it be less confusing if you just describe them as main characters and not necessarily?
Well, Lord of the Rings is also kind of complicated because it's got like 50 million characters and a bunch of plot lines, all of which are important to everything.
Lord of the Rings is my example in this case because Lord of the Rings is intentionally written in a very classical sense. It's not written it's not written or structured the way modern stories tend to be. It's written like mythology.
Yeah, in kind of an interesting way in that although Frodo and Sam, like Frodo's story is the main story and like the crux of the overall plot, it's also the storyline where the least actual like stuff happens. It's mostly character pieces with Sam, Frodo, and Gollum until like the very end.
I wouldn't say that in the book's case, but the book is also like not a Hollywood movie, so it doesn't emphasize the same things. Like
definitely in the movie, it's mostly just like Frodo, Sam, and Gollum walking to Mordor.
Yeah, but that's because the movie spent a lot more time on the action.
Yeah, because you can't make a 12-hour 3-movie series out of Sam and Frodo and Gollum walking to Mordor.
What I mean is, when a big battle happens, the movie adds a lot of dramatic elements to it. Like Helm's Deep is excellent cinema, but 90% of what goes on in Helm's Deep is made up bullshit for the movie.
I don't know why, but like the idea of Netflix selling me a 1-hour Frodo, Sam, Gollum walking to Mordor simulator that you just have on your TV during Christmas if you don't want the Yule log on.
Or Christmas Story.
Just popped into my head.
People would watch that, though. People watch BrainScratch comms. Do you think people wouldn't watch that?
That's right.
Jeez.
Like, what was the nicest thing anybody ever said about BrainScratch? I'd rather watch Sam, Frodo, and Gollum walk to Mordor for 10 hours.
My point is, a lot of stuff happens with Frodo and Sam, but it's the kind of stuff that's more fun to read than it is to watch. It's stuff like, it's the kind of stuff that, it's the kind of traveling difficulties, you know? I mean, they're traveling through hostile territory, and if you were actually living this shit, you wouldn't say it was nothing happening. You'd say, oh god, this is really tough, this is really hard. How am I going to live with so little food in such hostile territory? But, you know, it's really hard to make a Hollywood movie about stuff that's as in the characters' heads as hunger, you know?
No, they got lambus bread. They don't have to worry about it.
That's fine.
Is that made up bullshit for the movie?
No,
that was in the books.
No,
Lambus
lembas bread is actually got way more lore attached to it in the books than it does in the movies. It's another one of those world building details that the movies didn't really have a way to focus on.
Is Lord of the Rings as in depth about this stuff as Star Wars is, where if they show one thing, it's got its entire miniseries and 4 books about it?
Yes and no, in the sense that Tolkien wrote a lot about his universe, but a lot of it is stuff that he wrote in letters or stuff that he wrote in unfinished stories that never got published until after he died. So, and a lot of it is stuff that he didn't 100% make up his mind on. Like the origin of the orcs is something that he sort of went back and forth on. So
well, yeah, because he never wrote a story about it, so it was something that he could change his mind
well
about.
it was more like later on in the story he was uncomfortable with the origin story that he made up with it, which was basically Morgoth kidnapped a bunch of elves in the really early days of the universe and tortured and twisted them into orcs. But that's kind of dark when you actually think about it. So he wasn't like toward the end of his life, he sort of got uncomfortable with that idea and was maybe sort of changed his mind about it, but he never made up his mind about changing his mind. So when the time came for them...
What we have is what we have. So.
Yeah, so when the time came for them to make the movie, they included that detail as something Saruman says. But, it might not actually be the origin of the orcs. We don't know. As a result of all of this, Tolkien not knowing exactly what he felt about certain plot elements and having multiple ideas of how things went. Readers sort of have to read through all of his material and sort of puzzle it out the way a scholar would, which is why they're called Tolkien scholars. It's not just,
fanboys.
it's not just them being fanboys. That it's like it's at like trying to actually figure out the lore of Middle Earth is a really goddamn dedicated thing, because the process is not dissimilar from trying to figure out like historical events from old documents and stuff.
So to talk about the game for once, I know.
No, stop that. Don't even think about it.
You guys were mentioning the momentum in this game.
Yeah.
And how like it's locked in certain ways. And I think this is the first time I've noticed it. It probably was noticeable before, but I was picking my nose and not paying attention. Like you, to get to this area, boosted off of a cliff and then jumped, and it felt like you should have gone a lot farther than
Exactly
how much far you actually ended up going.
Your jump drags on your momentum really hard after the first like half second or so. So it's you slow down in the air. To be fair, you did slow down in the air in Sonic Adventure as well. But
like, I mean, that should happen, but not to this extreme.
Yeah, it didn't happen quite so quickly in Sonic Adventure, so you could go further when you like spin dash jumped off of a hill.
Yeah, because like when you're in the air, Sonic's no longer running. Nothing is propelling you forward. It should only be momentum, and air resistance should.
I mean, air resistance. Yeah, air resistance is a
I
thing.
hate that I'm being the kind of Sonic fan who's actually mentioning fucking real world physics in Sonic. Like I have got a degree, but the point is that I get what you're talking about in that it makes this kind of exploration less satisfying than
What the hell?
should be.
I have 140. I have 140 memory tokens, and I need 145 more.
Time to run around in circles.
No. Time to fish.
That's the first time I've ever
Fuck
seen
this.
you not have enough of whatever the hell you've needed in this.
He did earlier for a save thing, but
You see, this stuff right here that we're going through is something I wish the game had more focus on. I think this island and the third island specifically have the best examples of it. But to me, level design like this, level architecture like this, further convinces me that cyberspace did not need to be a thing.
Yeah, like this is basically just a little mini Sonic level, but in the open world.
Yeah, but they only have a few instances of that happening. And
Of this here,
Yeah.
I would have loved to see a Frontiers game where it was just this in the open world stuff.
and down you go.
Oh, nice.
I let go of the I let go of the
Fooled you.
I let go of the accelerate button too early. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. A lot of the open world's platforming challenges are very bite-sized, so you don't get a lot of these more involved sections as a result.
Yeah.
You get like the underground section,
Which I love.
this section, and I can't think of anything specific on Island 3. There's a construct that you have to platform through to get to one of the more hard-to-reach islands, but you can get to that island without going through it if you're clever.
Yeah.
The third island has those flying enemies that Sonic can sort of ride on top of if he homing attacks them, and the objective when you're riding on top of them is to crash them into the ground to kill them. Damn it.
Whoopsie doodle.
That does seem like an annoying thing about this kind of style, though, is that if you fail, I mean, typically in an older Sonic game, the fact that you didn't die if you failed to jump was a bonus because you could just keep on moving right and finish the level. But in this style of game, you have to find your way back to wherever the hell that platforming challenge started in order to get back to it.
Yeah.
Which does potentially seem a little annoying.
To be fair, that platforming section isn't as long as it looks.
I mean, it looked like a solid 3 or so minutes to get through the whole thing, at least on your first try, which is about as long as many of the old 3D Sonic levels were.
Yeah, but that's mostly because I was going through it at a fairly sedate pace, trying to pick up rings along the way. If you rush through that, it takes maybe a minute, tops. But also, I'm kind of like, I tend to, when I'm playing Frontiers, I tend to slip into a kind of mid-speed sort of mode. And right now, I'm just trying to get around to the platforming section so that I don't have to deal with it. Yeah, I skipped the platforming section entirely by just sort of cheesing my way up a cliff. So that's a thing.
Oh, and then you unlock a shortcut. Okay. Oh, wait, so that platforming section is just to get up here?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah, because there's a Chaos Emerald.
Yeah, it's to get to the Emerald. Yeah.
There are probably a few collectibles that you can find in the platforming section itself. I think the only, like, I don't think there are any mandatory platforming sections in the open world, even the big ones.
Well, what's mandatory in your case?
Well, I mean, there's usually a fairly easy to figure out way around them if you're creative in your thinking.
I would say if it leads to an emerald, it's mandatory.
Well, I mean, like, going through the actual platforming. There are ways to get around it a lot of the time.
Well, okay, intentionally, like inherently, it's supposed to be mandatory because you have to do it in order to get to the emerald.
Intended.
Not saying you have.
Let's put it that way.
It's
Intended.
intended, but the way the game is designed gives you ways around it that aren't necessarily
Right.
that don't necessarily require you to break the game to figure out ways to skip it.
Yeah, like the devs intend you to actually jump on shit in Super Mario World. That doesn't mean that you can't use your cape to skip the whole game.
What you have to understand about me is that I've played a million billion open world games, and I've made a business of trying to find inventive ways to get around the paths that the developers mean for me to take. Breath of the Wild is my jam, man. I figured out the intricacies of that climbing system right away.
Mash that there B button. You're never going to run out of stamina ever again.
I never had to upgrade my stamina bar to get anywhere. I only started upgrading my stamina bar after I had enough hearts to get the goddamn Master Sword. Everyone who talks about that game is like, oh, you need to upgrade your stamina because the stamina is how you get up walls and tame horses. No, just stock up on stamina potions. You'll be fine.
You merely adopted mountain climbing. I was born by it, molded by it. I didn't get a stamina fruit until I was already a man.
Yeah, and there are ways to find a piece of mountainside that's slanted just so that you can slowly walk in place on it and recover your stamina. So sometimes you don't even need the stamina potions to cheese your way up a mountainside.
Don't even get me started on whistle pumping.
Whistle? Okay, so whistle pumping is dumb because it's just like...
I never bothered.
Here's the thing. Like, I don't have a problem with dumb exploits in concept. Like, if you can do them and have fun doing them, then sure. There's nothing wrong with that. I just hate doing it because it makes you do weird controller gymnastics with your fingers because you have to like mash the down button to whistle while also moving and using the B button to sprint, and so it like makes you have to do this weird claw with your hands, and it hurts.
I'll tell you what, you do not need any of that weird stuff to master Breath of the Wild navigation. You do not need to bomb launch yourself. You do not need to surf on a tree through the air. You do not need to construct a spacecraft out of a guardian and a raft.
But I like being mercenary, Tao.
All of that stuff is really fun once you figure out how to master it, because it lets you do some extremely strange things with the world design. But
also, hi, Skyrail.
Oh man, it's weird seeing Skyrail be green. Oh man, it's so weird seeing all of these like boost era graphics with these extremely like SA2 ass like
level
things
design,
like the rocket and whatever.
It really swings home how different the level structure between the different games were, because this feels a lot different to play than a boost era game. Even though we're technically in boost era controls.
Oh, there's even the thing that leads to the Shadows Whistly thing. Oh man. I have to say, it's been a nice bit of nostalgia being like, oh, this is blah blah level from such and such game. Like, that's been neat.
Unfortunately, it's not quite as rewarding as like when Mario Galaxy 2 did. What was the
Throwback Galaxy?
Throwback Galaxy.
Yeah. I think part of that though was that it was more special, and it was also more of an obvious callback to a game that hadn't been focused on in a while.
Also, they remade the actual graphical style of the level, which was cool. This is just
and
Green
also
Hill
the
arranged
music
into...
too. Like, they got a big band to play the music, and then when you heard the ba 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 da 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 with like real brass instruments, that was awesome.
Yes, it was.
Also, it's neat that Skyrail's short enough that they can make it an entire one of these whole things. Because that's the only level in SA2 you can actually beat in like less than 2 minutes. Without doing anything like janky, I should say. Although Grinding in this game works exactly like the Boost era games, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
There's
so-
balancing.
AKA it works better.
To be honest, the lack of balancing mechanics for grinding kind of spoils the fun of a level like this.
Yeah, it was like this and Final Rush were like the only levels where they actually tried to make you try when grinding. And I mean, granted, it probably is for the best to make the level, to make them less interactive because it was so fiddly. But with that said, it does also just make this a glorified cutscene whenever you go on any rail.
Yeah, I mean, to switch rails in Sonic Adventure 2, you actually had to manually jump.
Wait, what?
I was a 15 I was 0.15 seconds away from an S rank.
I thought you were under the S rank.
Nope, he was 0.15 over.
Oh fuck. Oh, I was looking at the A rank time. That's what was going on. Okay.
Okay, so I'm just like jumping from one objective to the next right now. So I picked up a red ring, and then I had to go get another red ring.
Yeah. Honestly, seeing these again in the modern graphics kind of goes to show how much more multi-layered the adventure games level designs were than the Boost ones. Do they have any Sonic Adventure 1 levels in these throwbacks?
No, unfortunately. But to be honest, the Sonic Adventure 1 levels kind of had this way of squeezing a lot of gameplay out of a very small gameplay space. So
I mean, I feel like that would be to the controls benefit, though, because this game is all about, like, the Sonic Adventure 1 stages were generally more open.
my point
So-
is, the levels would last about a third of the time that they do in their own game if you had the ability to boost through them. They already like last about 0.2 of a second if you actually know how to use the game's spin dash jumping to your advantage. So I'm not sure how well that would work.
It's just so strange because, like, especially looking at these, you can still boost your way over the goal and die. Oh man, they kept it just as bad. No, I love that. I love that shit. I'm a simp. I'll admit it. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah. Why can't they just remake SA1 and SA2 already? I guess is the point I'm asking, because like seeing I haven't played it. I don't know if the controls feel right or not, and I know there's issues with the cyberspace controls, but like that level design mentality still has so much room to go. They didn't even get close to unlocking it, and it's just sad.
I think if you mod the game to enable the physics, it almost feels like it's on point for a Sonic Adventure game. So they could if they wanted to, but the other issue is that when you get down to it, the Sonic Adventure games really do not have a lot of content by today's standards. And I think if they were going to remake those games, they would want to add a lot of content to sort of give you more to do with the speed style gameplay and all.
I mean, you're right, but I don't know. The whole point of the games was replayability, and like Sonic Mania doesn't really have all that much content either, and people still loved that game. I don't see why we can't do the
I
same
know
thing.
that, but they would want to at least balance it out with some more speed stage stuff, because let's face it, nobody likes the fishing. Nobody likes the mech stage stuff enough to want to spend more time doing it than the games already have you doing. So they wouldn't want to add more mech stage stuff. They certainly wouldn't want to add more treasure hunting stuff. They would have to also redo Big's Fishing entirely, because that's just not good.
I don't know.
My point is, there's a significant chunk of the games that they would have to design from scratch. So it's not just a matter of doing a 1-to-1 remake in this case.